Hi, I'm Joni, and some of you might recognise me from the Harrow Art Centre, where I usually do crafty, arty workshops during the half term and the summer holidays. Unfortunately, I can't be there, you can't be there, but that doesn't mean we can't make something together over the Easter holidays. And I wanted to show you one of my favourite things to make, which are shadow puppets. And I've done them on the theme of the sea, because at the moment that's what I miss the most, and I usually would be down the beach during the holidays. It's also a lovely day outside at the moment. But instead we're going to make shadow puppets of lovely creatures. So I'll show you how to make
a basic shadow puppet and a shadow puppet with a moving part and some colour.
So what you'll need to make your shadow puppet is the usual scissors, pencils, sellotape, but we'll also be using some card. Now I'm using black card because usually puppeteers use that so that they can see what their puppet's shadow is going to look like. But it can be any colour because we're just seeing the shadow in our shadow puppet. If you want your puppet to have a little bit of colour, you can also use this, which is acetate, which is just a coloured plastic. You can also use this, which is cellophane, which is very similar, just a bit thinner. And you can get it in all sorts of colours. Usually you can get it online, so maybe you could start making your puppet today and wait for the colour to come a little bit later. You will also need, if you want your puppet to move, and we'll go into that a little bit more, you'll need some split pins, which you can get from any kind of stationery shop. We'll also need something to hold and move our puppet, which we call a rod. And you can use, as we'll be using today, is some bamboo skewers, but anything like a straw, it's absolutely fine as well.
So let's start off with our basic shadow puppet. So we're going to start off with designing our puppet. First step is to draw a sketch. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect. This is just a place to get some ideas down. So have some fun drawing some doodles of the type of animal puppet you want to make. But when you're doing your final design, always make sure to make your puppet as big as possible, taking up most of a piece of A4 paper. Some other really important things to remember when making shadow puppets is that it's always better to have a puppet facing sideways. You can do a shadow puppet that's facing forwards, but to start off with, it's easier to draw and make a puppet that is facing sideways. Have a think whether you would like to add an eye to your shadow puppet. It is the fiddliest part to cut out, but it does really help to bring the face together on your puppet. It's a really good idea to use a reference when making your puppet, and a reference could be a photo of the animal that you want to make. You can go onto the internet to find the photo you want. I do this all the time when I'm drawing my puppets. Or if you need a bit more help or not as practiced at drawing, that's fine. You can search for your animal and the word silhouette to find lots of examples of drawings that make great shadow puppets. And maybe you can find out where that word silhouette comes from and how people used to have silhouettes done of themselves. So once you're happy with your design, you can start cutting it out. Either you can redraw your design onto your card with a pencil, or you can cut round your drawing and trace it onto your card, or, as you can see as I'm doing here, you can cut roughly round your drawing, then stick it onto your card. You can use tape or blue tack, and oops, I need to remember to put my drawings at the edge of the card so that I don't waste it. Don't worry about the eye just yet because we'll be cutting it out later. sometimes it helps to cut out the puppet roughly from your card, so you're not having to move the whole piece of card while you're cutting your puppet out. And there we go. So now you have your shadow puppet, but keep your design just in case you ever want to trace round it to make more shadow puppets in the future. Also keep it close so that we can redraw our eye onto our shadow puppet. That by using a pencil. But it doesn't matter if you make a mistake because no one's going to see it on your puppet. I often use is a drawing pin, and this helps to make a hole that you can guide your scissors through. You might need your grown-up to help you out with this. Next thing we're going to do is attach our rod to our shadow puppet, which is going to help us move it. So just take whatever you're using for a rod and stick some sellotape straight onto your puppet. I think this might need another bit of sellotape. Give your shadow puppet a little wiggle and see how it moves. You can always move the rod to make it easier to move. So I've also decided to make a Puffin Puppet, and I've designed it in the same way that I've designed my seal. But I've also drawn my final design a little bit differently. I wanted to make the Puffin's head move, so I've drawn it separately from the body. And I've given it a nice chunky neck so that when we put the split pin through, it won't tear. Next, I always cut it roughly out, layer the parts on top of each other, and then I use a pin to poke a hole where I want to put the split pin in. This is so I can see how my puppet moves. Pin is not too close to the edge of the puppet. Now we'll cut out the different parts of our puppet, same as we did with the seal. That I've also drawn out some sections that I want to cut out. So I've done it for the eye of the puppet, but I've also drawn where I want to cut out a section of the beak, and that's because we'll be adding some colour. I've also done the same with the tummy. But first we'll cut out the whole puppet. Have our sketch here, we're going to redraw the bits that we want to cut out. Just make sure that you have plenty of space around the section because we don't want the puppet to tear or to become flimsy. And we don't want to cut too close to the edge. Don't think that you have to cut out loads of your puppet, even a small cutout bit will look really good. I'm also checking where I wanted the split pins to be and drawing a circle. So now I have all the bits of my puppet cut out. What we're going to do next is to add some colour to the beak. I've got my acetate here, and I've cut out some smaller pieces, and I've chosen red and orange. Take a piece of acetate or cellophane and line it up so it covers the cutout section that you want to show colour. You then might want to trim away the excess. And pieces of sticky tape ready, as we'll then stick your acetate or cellophane onto our shadow puppet. We're going to joint the two parts of the puppets together, and for that we'll be using some split pins. Lay your puppet together, and with the grown-ups' help, push a pin through both bits of card where you want to put the split pin. Then we can guide the split pin through, but mind your fingers. Give your puppet a wiggle to check that it's moving how you want it. Another way of attaching your rods. This time we'll be using some Velcro. First you want to cut your Velcro into some smaller strips. Stick the scratchy side of the Velcro onto your puppet. We'll need two rods, one for the head and one for the body. So we'll use 2 bits of scratchy Velcro. Then take the corresponding fluffy side and fold that over the end of a bamboo skewer or whatever you're using as a rod. And that's it.
So there you have it. You now know how to make a basic shadow puppet and one that has a bit of colour and can move. And if you check out the Harrow Art Centre website, you'll be able to find a video about how to make your own shadow puppet theatre. So go on, have fun and make your own shadow puppet show.